as that man who is the Republican candidate continues to distance himself from Project 2025, director of the project, Paul Dans, who used to be a top advisor to you-know-who, has stepped down. His campaign, you-know-who's campaign, keeps saying he doesn't know anything about it. Nothing. He never saw it before, never heard of it. But his VP, JD, wrote the foreword of the book written by Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts, who co-authored Project 2025. See how funny that is?
People seem to be surprised that the first felon that we ever elected to the White House commits crimes, but, or breaks the law.
Right, breaks the law.
But clearly, he has no respect for the law whatsoever. And so, for the most part, it seems like they've been going after probationary people because probationary employees do not enjoy the same protections.
They lack some protections.
Exactly. And so, it'll be interesting to see where the unions go with some of these lawsuits and how successful they are. But again, ultimately, I think that he's...
Representative Jasmine Crockett and Whoopi Goldberg recently engaged in a powerful and intense exchange on The View. The congresswoman strongly defended her views on the current state of American democracy, while Goldberg, known for her direct and no-nonsense questioning, challenged her on the effectiveness of the Democratic Party's strategy. What began as a conversation quickly turned into a sharp debate, filled with urgency and conviction. Crockett pushed back against criticisms, highlighting the high stakes of the political moment and the dangers of standing still. Their conversation reflected the growing tension within the political landscape between demanding accountability and building unified resistance. As the segment continued, viewers saw not just a political argument, but a reflection of a broader national struggle. The episode offered a rare, unfiltered glimpse into the challenges of preserving democratic values in today's climate.
See that ever since day one, baby, that pen been going and it ain't stopped, and it's steamrolling over all of our rights and our liberties and our freedoms and everything that we thought was the foundation of this country, our Constitution. Seems like we're saying, well, nope. With a pen, get rid of the Constitution. With a pen, get rid of impoundment and other laws that exist.
Do you think that Americans just didn't believe that he would go with that Project 2025? Or what? What was that? I mean, he said, I don't even know what it is. Remember?
Oh, I remember, honey.
Yeah.
I remember there was actually a hearing that we had in oversight, and it was right after he said, oh, I know nothing about that Project 2025.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a witness, and I mentioned that his name was mentioned 312 times in Project 2025. So I was like, this is interesting. He don't know nothing about it, but he's all through it.
And if it's his name, he's riveted to it.
No. And he's relying on the people that absolutely pulled it together.
Like J.D. Vance.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the deal. I mean, I think that there are those that just said, I want to do something different. And so we know that typically when people are feeling it, especially in the economy, they tend to just go the other way. The problem is that this wasn't the guy to fix anything. This is the guy that is the king of breaking.
In the second part of the exchange, Rep. Crockett delivered a detailed critique of Republican leadership, accusing it of undermining the Constitution and weakening democratic institutions. She warned that excessive use of executive power was being used to bypass checks and balances, allowing major changes to be made without proper oversight. One of her biggest concerns centered around Project 2025, a conservative plan to restructure the federal government. She described its goals, such as firing thousands of federal workers, consolidating executive control, and removing critical public protections, as deeply concerning. Crockett also questioned Republican leaders who deny knowledge of the plan, even though many are named in its proposals. She emphasized how these changes would impact everyday people, reducing access to health care, weakening public programs, and shaking economic stability. Through her comments, Crockett urged the public to learn about these plans now before the consequences become irreversible.
Country, where you have said to everyone, we want to hear what everyone has to say. We've lost sight of the fact that part of the greatness of the U.S. is the rough and tumble. You know, you and I have to figure out a way to be here together. Regardless of what I look like, what I think, you have to live with me like I got to live with you. Like we have to keep reminding people when we're talking about making sure women know what's going on. It's not because women don't. It's because we need the men to recognize that the women are on top of their stuff. We're trying to help y'all.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, you can say many.
Before the break, we were talking about how college kids have to vote and all that stuff. Young people have to understand something. If this 2025 goes into operation, your mother, your grandma, your father, your older people in your family, they will not maybe be getting Medicare, Social Security. Everything's going to get cut back. That means it's on you.
Yeah.
That's on you. So you have to remember these things. When you're a young person, life may be your oyster right now, but it's not going to last.
Well, yeah, because you're heading in our direction. And you want to be, because the alternative is not the best.
Right.
So you want to be alive, but you have to also recognize we're all in it together, regardless of race, creed, color, gender, whatever. We are all taking.
Whoopi Goldberg then turned the conversation toward Democratic leadership, asking whether the party has done enough to push back against Republican strategies. Crockett admitted that Democrats have struggled to unify their message and respond as forcefully. While Republicans move quickly and dominate media narratives, Democrats have been slower to communicate in a way that resonates with voters. This, she argued, leaves room for misinformation and unchallenged policy changes. Crockett warned that many Americans won't fully grasp the consequences until they face hardships like hospital closures, service cutbacks, or changes to Social Security. By then, she cautioned, it may be too late. Goldberg pressed again, are Democrats truly ready to act with urgency? Crockett responded firmly, saying education and community outreach must be prioritized now. Their conversation revealed a party at a crossroads, balancing the need for stronger political strategy with the urgent task of showing Americans how policy decisions affect their everyday lives.
Because basically they said, no, this was signed into law, and in a 9-0 decision, they would not allow him to unilaterally overturn it. So we will see how well they hold up, but we know that this administration keeps threatening judges. If a judge hands down a decision that they don't like, they talk about impeaching that judge and getting rid of that judge, and they won't be able to get rid of these judges because the standard is too high. But he may end up telling some of those Supreme Court justices that are his, it's time for you to go. And they potentially will leave because he did that last time.
Well, I want to ask you about Democrats. You're obviously leading next generation voice in the Democratic Party. And while Trump is moving at this breakneck pace, it feels like signing all these EOs, doing these long-ranging press conferences in the Oval Office, Democrats seem to not be getting their footing on what the message and strategy is to push back. We think of the leaders chanting, we will win outside of Treasury, which was widely